Welcome back to ABC-7 and 4. Well, joining us now is Dr. Alozzi to talk about lung health and why it matters. Of course it matters. Welcome back, by the way.
I just coughed, so apparently it matters.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Why is it so important for us?
So a couple of things. One of the things that is this month is COPD awareness, pneumonia awareness, and smoking cessation day. Almost 150,000 people a year die from chronic lung diseases like COPD, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and most of them are linked to smoking. Right, and so as a former smoker, I know I had to stop. If you're out there and you're struggling with smoking, try to stop. And pneumonia actually sends 1 million people to the hospital, whether it's COVID pneumonia or bacterial pneumonia or RSV pneumonia. A lot of ways that we can work around and make you healthier around that, and that's where we'll go from here.
Well, you just mentioned COPD. So what are some of the symptoms that we should be watching for?
So chronic obstructive pulmonary disease really has two pieces. One is emphysema, one is chronic bronchitis. In emphysema, your lungs get sort of narrow and you wheeze. In COPD, it's have you been having a cough or morning cough especially for more than 4 weeks, right? And all of those things are driven by smoking for the most part. Now, if you work in a factory, you're around benzene or work in a mine, coal, all those things can cause it as well, but the primary driver is smoking.
Well, you also mentioned pneumonia, so let's touch on that a little more. It's a little more common, still a big deal.
Yeah. So the thing is that everybody always says, "Oh, I have walking pneumonia." Most people don't have walking pneumonia. You just feel sick, right? Now there is walking pneumonia. There's something called mycoplasma. There's a bunch of bacteria that can cause it. Let's see, cough again. There's viruses that can cause it, but a lot of the causes of pneumonia are actually preventable. Okay. And as you get older, especially, there are ways to prevent it.
Well, explain those signs and symptoms of pneumonia.
Well, the cough, which I have, and I hope I don't have pneumonia, shortness of breath, not being able to breathe, fever, chest pain, aches, confusion, especially in the elderly, right? So if you have an older person that's coughing and all of a sudden they're confused, you might want to give them a chest x-ray because that might be the first sign of pneumonia.
Okay, good to know. Well, what steps can we take to make sure our lungs are healthy?
Well, the first thing is if you smoke, stop. And if you don't smoke, don't start, but be physically active, right? I mean, I can still run about 2 or 3 miles a day, so hopefully I don't have COPD. But one of the things as well is getting vaccines. So there's a strep vaccine for streptococcal pneumonia. There's an RSV vaccine. Obviously, there's a flu shot. Remember, that causes pneumonia. And there's also the COVID shot, right? Controversial, but it especially helps you if you're above 65.
Well, let's touch on smoking and the effects of quitting.
Yes, so the wild thing about it is there's a lot of numbers up there, but 20 minutes after you smoke, you actually have an increase in your oxygenation. A year after you stop smoking, your lungs actually start to heal, your heart starts to heal, and you get better. Let's not even worry about what happens 5 to 15 years later. Just within that first day, week, month, and year, there are benefits that you can have by stopping smoking.
Well, smoking rates have declined significantly across all age groups over the years. Not the case for vaping. Why do you think that is?
So I think two things, right? So the first graph showed that smoking rates are coming down in the younger, below 50, but what they've done is essentially started vaping, right? And so again, there's an argument to be made that you don't have as much nicotine, you don't have the tar, some of those things that are in a cigarette that are in vape, but a lot of vapes are fake, right? They have what's called a vitamin E acylate that can cause popcorn lung that we've heard about in the media. And so again, none of these things are good. If you're doing it, try to reduce it. Ideally, try to stop. But the good news is that smoking historically over the last 20 years has dropped a lot.
Well, some people have a hard time quitting smoking, so what should they do?
I think the biggest thing is acknowledge that, hey, I'm a smoker. You have to decide on your own whether you want to stop, right? So it's whether you have that introspection, whether you want to go do it. And then there are a bunch of groups. They're online, they're in person. There's so many issues. You can get patch, you can get nicotine gum. Once upon a time, I used nicotine gum.
It helped, huh?
It helped me. So again, there's lots of ways and there's lots of resources.
All right, let's talk about those resources.
I mean, there's all across the city. I think one of the things about stopping is that just go to your primary care physician, right? Tell them, hey, I smoke, I want to stop. They can put you on a patch, they can get you some nicotine gum. If you have the side effects that we talked about, the COPD piece, the pneumonia, there's a host of organizations, EPPA is one of them, River Valley, the pulmonary group, they can all manage your lung disease. And if you want to, and you should, get vaccinated, the health department's right there.
All right, Dr. Alozzi, good to know.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Let's get to storm track.